Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Thursday morning, June 17th. I'm so happy to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And I have my chat room open if anybody wants to come and sit in there if you're awake and want to hang out. We're going to continue looking at some coping lists that I found on Michael C. Irving's website. And we've been looking at these all week in the morning, and it's really good stuff. I really like this website, and I really like what this guy is doing. He's a psychotherapist. He's a sculptor. He's also a survivor of child abuse, and he's got he's just doing some great work. You can find his information at www.irvingstudios.com/child_abuse_survivor_self-nurture.htm. That's what we were looking at yesterday morning, was the self-nurturing section of his adult survivors coping lists. And really there's some great ideas on here. We were going through quite a few of them and just talking about them and things that might help us to self-soothe and to self-nurture and feel better about ourselves and feel better, just sort of take a break and just relax, and things that might help us. So it's really good information. I hope we will tune in, and it's I find this information very helpful myself as a survivor, and I think other people might too. Some of it might work for you and some of it might not, and that's okay. But he's just giving some examples of what we can do. And there's a lot of examples, so it does give you lots of ideas, right? So, I'm not a professional counselor. I don't hold any professional certificates in counseling or therapy or therapist certificates. I'm just a person who pays to do my own blog talk show because I'm fighting for child rights, standing up for children, advocating for children against child abuse, and I'm also a survivor. So I just wanted to be able to bring out information to people that I found was very helpful for me and useful. And I think that breaking the silence, silence is a big problem with child abuse, and it's kind of really sort of the whole issue surrounding child abuse, right? As long as child abuse is silenced, then nothing will happen. And so, the abusers continue to do what they do as long as they're never caught or found out, and survivors, as long as they don't speak out, they just stay suffering in silence. And society, as long as they don't have to hear about child abuse, then that means they can just continue on in their merry life and forget about all these kids out here who are being abused every single day, and killed and murdered at the hands of their parents and caregivers. So the whole issue is silence is really the problem, and that's why I thought, I have a voice and I can use it. And I also studied child rights, and I thought, I sort of stumbled upon Blog Talk Radio back last fall and was listening to a great show, Voices of Hope, Gail Crabtree here on Blog Talk Radio. And I just clicked on the Create Your Own Show link, and before I knew it, I had a show. And I was doing like one show a week, and then I realized, okay, I could do 2 shows. Then I started thinking, well, I could do more than that. And then it just sort of developed into into what it is now. So, it's just been great to be able to do these shows, and I appreciate everybody who's tuning in and, passing the word on to other people. And, my whole goal and mission is to continue on and then spend the rest of my life working to change this issue regarding child abuse and help save children's lives and help get these children some help. You know what I mean? And I hope everybody will join in the cause, because this is very serious. If you've ever survived child abuse, then you know how serious it is. You know what I mean? If you haven't survived child abuse, then maybe you're just not quite aware of how serious of a problem this is. But it's an epidemic, and it's a disease around the world. It's actually not just in North America or whatever. This is happening worldwide. And so my goal is international and national, child protection and standing up for child rights. So that's the whole thing. I thought, I have the rest of my life, however long I have, I'm going to just try to be one of the people out there who's raising their voices to help make a difference. And that's why I'm doing the shows. So listen at your own discretion, please, because, you have to know what's good for you to listen to. And so ultimately, you know what's good for you to listen to, and therefore you have to make that decision yourself. And if you feel uncomfortable about the material, or you feel uncomfortable with the subject that I'm talking about, please turn the show off. Because you won't be hurting my feelings at all. And you have to know what's good for you to listen to. And you have to listen at your own discretion. And young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have someone to, sort of listen into some shows, check some archives out, if they can't listen live, and make sure that this is something that you should be listening to, because there's a lot of adult content on here. I am talking always about child abuse and everything related to child abuse and domestic violence and whatnot, and I think that there's a lot of adult content, and I don't know how young the people are listening to the shows and where the Blog Talk players are. And if you're a really young person, it might be confusing to you what I'm talking about. There's not a whole lot of people talking about abuse. There's not a whole lot of people talking about domestic violence, and, that's the whole issue. It could be kind of scary for some young children. And that's why I ask you to have an adult listen with you, and then they can help you to make the decision whether or not you should be listening. Because I'm fighting for children, to save children's lives, and to help keep children safe and protected online and in their own lives. And so this is the issue. You'd be doing yourself a huge favor, and me, by getting permission to listen to my shows and make sure it's okay, right? And, have an adult check what you're doing online all the time. There's so many crazy people out there. You just have to really protect yourself and be very, very careful. So that's why I mention this on every show. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll get right into this article. It's the coping list from Michael C. Irving, www.irvingstudios.com, or you can just type into your browser "Child Abuse Survivor Monument" and that'll bring up his website as well. And I found these by looking around, just because I saw he had a section there on his website for adult survivors of child abuse, and I thought, well, I'll click in there and see what kind of resources he has, and he has coping lists there, and I thought, I'll take a look at those, and so that's how I found this information. Really good stuff. I really like it, and we went back. We've been talking about this now for probably a couple weeks, because it's very useful information. There's lots and lots of good information on that website, so I hope you will check it out. And yesterday we left off with soothing deeds, things we can do to soothe ourselves. Now today we're going to go on with keeping busy, healthy distractions, art and playful activity. That's another section. Taking care of your body. We'll see how far we can get. These are just some lists of things that we can do to help ourselves as adult survivors of child abuse, to feel better, to learn how to cope, to self-soothe and self-nurture, right? So it's just so important. And he just gives out ideas of what we can do, because sometimes we can't think of things, And it's good when you can see someone else's ideas, because he's a survivor himself, and he works with children, abused children, right? And so, his whole life has all really been related to child abuse, and sort of like mine. But I'm not a psychotherapist, right? But the thing is I'm learning a lot from him, and I love his website, and I think that he's got some great ideas here for people. Keeping busy and healthy distractions is the next section here. He lists off a whole list of things, and one was mend clothes. Like if you like to sew, you could mend your clothes, rearrange your furniture. Lots of people like to do that. Decorate a room. Time out. Put thoughts and feelings to the back of your mind. Just take a time out. And I think a lot of times we don't do that because we're so busy, right? And so we don't even take a time out just to sit back and say, okay, I'm just going to relax, Create containment and set it aside for now. We could actually create a container, put all of our kind of whatever's going on in our lives on paper, stick it in the container and set it aside and say, there you go. I'm setting all of this aside for now, and I'm just going to take a break or do something else, right? Something more, that would just distract us and make us feel better, right? It says distract yourself and keep busy. Count to 10. Use breath work, like breathing techniques and whatnot. Make and put up a joy list. I don't know if people would like, some people might like to do that. I don't know. But it's just ideas, right? Some might work for you and some might work for me, sort of thing, right? Watch a sunset. That's what we forget to do. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of times we're so busy in our lives that we forget to even sit back and watch a sunset. You know what I mean? I used to do a lot of that when I was younger. But now that I'm older and I'm so busy all the time, I actually forget to do that. And so, it's a good thing to do. Go someplace you enjoy, Go somewhere with a friend. Go to a place like a fountain, waterfall, beach, stream, lake, or nature trail. Just get out and get some healthy, interaction with other people, keeping distracted, keeping our minds busy, and keeping our lives busy and focused, and just doing some things that we can kind of learn, help us to enjoy life, right? If we're just feeling very serious all the time and and everything is just all about bills and work and then serious issues regarding adult survivors of child abuse, right? We do need to incorporate some good stuff in there, right? And then here they go on to talk about art and playful activity, and they list off a whole bunch of stuff. Now this is kind of, it looks like silly stuff, but actually it's kind of fun if you ever get to do it. Blow bubbles, play cards. It's almost like going back to a time when you were younger and more carefree. Art and playful activity. Make a collage, make artwork. Lots of people like to do healing art therapy, and that's really a good idea, and I think it's very helpful for a lot of people. Sing to your favorite music, watch a comedy, make a scrapbook with inspirational, empowering images, which is a good idea, like especially if you're into that kind of stuff and you like to make scrapbooks, you know. You could do a scrapbook that makes you feel good when you look at it, like something that empowers you or is inspirational. Go to a playground and swing, use the jungle gym, learn to laugh at yourself, play hopscotch or darts and stuff like that. They just suggest art and playful activities because a lot of times, you know, if you survived a child abuse and you grew up in a violent home and whatnot, there might not have been a whole lot of, you know, this kind of things going on, right? So you might not have ever really experienced just having fun, just blowing bubbles, playing cards, doing art, you know, drawing and coloring, learning to laugh and just have fun. See, that's the whole issue, right? A lot of people, if they grew up in these abusive homes, just really didn't get to experience a lot of that. So as adults, we can do that. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's very healthy. Taking care of your body. That's another area that's huge for adult survivors of child abuse, because if you were not shown how to take care of yourself as a child, you know, if you didn't have any good role models, like if your parents did not take care of themselves and they abused you on top of that and didn't take care of you, then of course, you know, we as survivors just don't get these healthy views of how to take care of ourselves. And it's very important. It says get sleep if you need it, use aromatherapy, get a facial or a massage, reflexology, eat something good for you, go for a walk, do a meditation or relaxation exercises, listen to what your body needs, ask yourself if you need to eat, these types of things. I don't have a problem with that. I tend to overeat, you know what I mean, so I have to kind of be careful with all that. But, you know, getting rest and sleep is very important, and a lot of times people are so busy, and then they're trying things, you know, they have things on their mind and they just can't sleep and whatnot, and I know lots of people that go through that and suffer with that, and it's hard on your body when you don't get the proper rest that your body needs. After a while it can affect your moods, it can affect the way that you feel about things, you know what I mean, if we don't allow ourselves the time to get some rest, and sometimes we can't, and we're just so busy. But that's why it's important that when you can, that you do, you know, take a break, get off your feet, listen to some music, just relax, right? Because I know, like, I'm busy myself, and I don't even, if I had a big family, you know, children and you know, work and everything else, I think I would be much busier, right? But I don't have any children, and so, you know, therefore I have more time to do these sorts of things. But if you're an extremely busy person, a parent or whatever, and you just don't have time, you know, you got to kind of make a little bit of time for yourself to relax and take care of yourself, right? I mean, this is the whole issue, right? We'd feel a lot better if we did those sort of things. They have physical release here, and this is some ideas for physical release, just to sort of wear off some of that. If you're feeling very down or sort of, you know, angry or negative about things, and maybe, you know, just dealing with some flashbacks and whatnot, there's physical release stuff that we can do to really just work it out, you know what I mean? And I don't really like physical exercise. I mean, I try to avoid it at all costs, you know. But I'm just, you know, may as well be honest here. I like, you know, truth is everything. I'm not into physical exercise, but I do like to play basketball. I like to play tennis on the tennis courts. I like to do the real stuff. I'm not into sitting around in a gym. And so for me to work out in a gym is not fun, but I know a lot of people love it. And but for me, you know, playing around with playing basketball, that's fun, you know, interacting with people. I like to play tennis or racquetball or, you know, whatever, volleyball, things like that. So that's physical exercise, but I don't get out and do enough of it, see? So that's the whole issue. I should be joining up with a team, like a city team, you know, who's just a bunch of people getting together to just play, right? Because that's so important to be able to get out and do stuff and really get that, you know, really helps your body because you feel better, and then also it's the whole interaction with people, and then also it just helps get rid of some of that stuff that stuff that we need to release and get rid of, right? So it's so important. So it says do yoga, exercise, or dance to expressive music. We can jog or run, rollerblade, lift weights, sing really loud. Like if you can't get out and exercise, and your body's just not physically in a good enough shape to do these things, as we know that there's lots of people out there who are, quite sick and ill, and even physically, kind of incapacitated because of abuse, right? So we can sing really loud. We can do certain things, clang pots and pans. We could use a punching bag, punch a pillow. There's a whole bunch of stuff he lists here. We can allow ourselves to cry in a safe, supportive place, have someone with us, maybe a support partner, like somebody who's supported you through your healing journey. You could have them come over and say, look, I really need to have someone here because I really need to just allow myself to release this stuff. So I need to have, a time to cry and grieve and whatnot, right? And if you can't do it on your own because you're afraid you might hurt yourself, to let go that much, to actually experience and allow yourself to get rid of that stuff. You want to have someone with you when you do that, so, you know what I mean? So that you don't hurt yourself or hurt someone else, right? It's so important. It says breathe deeply to release heavy pain in the chest. Breathing is a good idea to do breathing techniques, breathing work. It does help, it helps me to calm down. I know when I get upset, I have some anxiety problems just due to the abuse that I suffered and the type of home I grew up in, which was completely violent and horrible. And so a lot of times, if things will get to me, and I'll become quite anxious, and it's just an anxiety will come over me. And I've learned to do breathing work and just calm down. So it does help because I used to be the type that wouldn't do that, and then of course it would affect me deeply, and I'd be panicking almost, right? And now I know how to get myself to calm down just by breathing, focusing, getting grounding. So it does help. It really does to do these things. Well, it helped for me, right? So that's all I'm saying, just to let people know that it has helped me out in the past. You can use a stress ball, those little squeezer things that you can get, and you can squeeze that sucker whenever you're upset, and you can just release that energy, right? Tear up newspaper, cardboard, or a telephone book. That's always good, just to rip up a bunch of paper. If you don't have anything, you don't want to destroy stuff, so, you can grab some newspapers and just start ripping them up. That allows you to get rid of some of that excess sort of stress or whatever that needs to come out. They say here you can squeeze or pound clay. Like if you like to work with clay, you can grab some clay and squeeze it and pound it. Have a pillow or a marshmallow fight. And have a food fight. These types of things. So this is just some stuff that Michael C. Irving is suggesting here. And he goes on to say healing occurs in relationship, and the feelings of shame, worthless, isolation from the abuse wreaked havoc on relationships and connections to others. Eventually, it is through connections with people that the survivor gets on with life. Caring and supportive people can be one of the strongest resources of healing. And he goes on to say, it is important to think about what help or support you need, and make a list of those whom you trust to turn to. Dividing your requests for support between different people can ensure that you receive a helpful diversity of care. It will also prevent burning out one ally whom you have to lean on too much or too often, right? So it's a good idea to reach out. See, I never reached out. I had friends growing up who were, the same as me, abused, right? Lots of people that I hung around with had worse homes than mine and came through a lot worse abuse than I did. And so, we all hung around together because we all knew and recognized who we were. Because, you can kind of spot each other, especially when you're young like that. You sort of have the ability to spot someone else who's being abused as well. And so we hung out, and I had lots of friends, and we would talk and stuff. But then when I got older and moved on, and then things, most of those friends I don't even know where they're at today. Some were killed and murdered, and actually quite a few of my friends were killed and murdered, and some were just off in prison, and some of my friends just ended up doing way too many drugs, and their lives were just completely ruined. And this is the whole issue. A lot of my friends from my youth are no longer around. And in adult relationships, as far as moving on and making adult friends, sometimes I would tell people stuff about my past, especially if they ask, and most of the time it just scared them off, right? And so I didn't have too many people to talk to. Never reached out for a therapist or counselor. Never really started looking into how to heal from the pain that was going on inside of my heart, for so many years. And so at the age of 41, I decided I was just sitting around and I was just actually ready to self-injure and sitting there feeling like this is just, I'm still in so much pain. Why can I not get out of this pain? And I realized at that point that it wouldn't matter what I did to myself. It was not going to help the situation. And if I ended my life, all I was going to be doing was allowing my abusers to win. So I thought, no, I'm not doing that, because if I injure myself or kill myself, that allows my abusers to win this fight, and I'm winning this fight. So I got mad. And I got really mad because I thought, why am I sitting here hurting myself further when I've already suffered enough? And that's what I hope every survivor will do, and realize that, you've suffered enough, and why do you have to continue to suffer? Because that's what happened to me. I got mad, and I thought, do I have to spend the rest of my life allowing this abuse to destroy me? Was that the picture of my life? I really took a good hard look at it, and I got really mad because I was like, I can't believe this. Like one of my brothers committed suicide at the age of 33. Another brother died of a drug overdose at the age of 43. Basically, he had been, he knew what he was doing, and he knew eventually those drugs would kill him, so he was just doing a sort of another version of suicide. And another one of my brothers was murdered at the age of 19. He was killed, and so this is the thing, our family really had a lot of problems, due to the abuse and destructive lifestyle that my parents had shown us. And really, they didn't show us how to live. They showed us how to die. And so, I thought, if I do this and I hurt myself, or if I end my life, all I'm doing is allowing them to win. And I got mad, and I said, that's it. I will never, ever, ever think those things, or even allow myself to even consider those things ever again. I'm going to fight to live. And that's where my whole journey changed. It took me until the age of 41. That's why I ask people, and I advise people to get help and not suffer, needlessly, when you can just reach out and get some help. Because as soon as I started reaching out, that's when all these hands started reaching out back to me. And it's been an amazing journey, because I've never had so much love in my life before. I've never had so much support in my life before. I've never had so much people that really care and are here for me no matter what. I've never experienced that before. There's been a few odd people in my life who have made a huge difference in my life, but the difference between, how I used to feel and how I feel today, 3 years later, is like night and day. It's completely opposite of the way that I was feeling about life and about things. So that's why I just keep encouraging people to reach out and get that help. Excuse me, whether it's group support, whether it's a therapist, counselor, one-on-one peer support. There's all kinds of good stuff online. Even if you can't get out and you want to do some online group sort of work. I like safety in numbers. I'm one of these people that likes to think that there is safety in numbers, so I like the group support. But some people don't like group support, and they like the more one-on-one, sort of relationship, and I think there's all kinds of help out there that you can access for free, because that's the whole issue. Sometimes people just don't have the money to go to a therapist or counselor, and they don't have the resources to go. So that was my case. So I just thought, well, I'll get involved in some of these online group support groups, and it was very helpful just to be able to talk to people who know basically kind of what you've been going through, because they've sort of been suffering along in the same types of things, not exactly the same, because nobody's exactly the same. But the thing is they're trying to heal too, and they're really trying to work. They want other people to heal as well, because they're working on their healing journey, right? So when you get to that point, if you do, and you're a survivor of child abuse and you're working on your healing, just remember that you can reach out and you can find people who care. And that's what I found was just amazing, because I didn't trust very many people. I didn't trust anybody, really. Growing up, I didn't trust anybody, that's for sure. But as an adult, I thought, if I want people to trust me, then I need to learn how to trust them. You know what I mean? They have to trust me, so I have to learn how to trust them. And I started to work on it, and it's been great, because I've really learned sort of how to cope. I don't have the same feelings that I used to have. I don't have the nightmares and flashbacks that I used to have. I still have flashbacks, but I don't allow them to take over my being. You know what I mean? The flashbacks used to be quite obtrusive in my life, and it would really cause me to feel bad. And now I still have them, but they don't mean as much to me because I've actually learned how to push them away, because they do not control my life. I do, and I'm moving on to have a good life, right? And so that's the whole issue, right? But I must have just been at the right place, in my journey to actually take those steps to do these things, and that's why it's so important for people to realize, that we're all in different stages of our healing, and it does take time. It's not something that happens overnight, unfortunately, and it's a lot of work. We have to actually sort of undo and learn how to undo the damage that was done to us. And not only that, but learn how to nurture ourselves and how to love ourselves, how to feel good about ourselves, and that's hard for anybody who's suffered any kind of abuse, It's a lot of work, but it can be done, I mean, I was told as a child that I was worthless, not wanted, a raped child, and my mom used to tell me quite often that she hated me and that she wished I was dead. She wished she had killed me. These are things that I would hear from her, on a regular basis, And my dad said I was evil. I was just a bad kid, evil from the devil. This is the sort of stuff I grew up hearing, and so I took that into my adulthood, and I used to sort of. It's not that I believed them, but it's just that it molded the picture of who I even saw myself as. You know what I mean? And I thought, I don't have to listen to those lies because that's what that was. And eventually, I started to learn how to tell myself that no. That's not true. All that stuff was garbage. I'm a good person. I'm not those things that my parents said I was. And I don't have to live my life by what they said because they were just abusers, you know what I mean? So there you go. And it was very helpful for me to start seeing a different picture of who I was, you know what I mean, to me and to who I think I am in the world, you know what I mean? And I thought, no, I'm none of those things that they said. I'm a good person and I don't have to. I started to realize why they did what they did. I took a big look at the picture. They were both abused as children. They had a terrible marriage. They were just miserable people. They had suffered with a lot of mental illness. My mom was diagnosed manic depressive. My dad was diagnosed borderline schizophrenic. So you get a manic depressive wife and a borderline schizophrenic husband and 7 kids. You're going to have problems. And they really just could not cope. And my mom had grown up under the most horrific abuse with her mother, and so she just passed it on. You know what I mean? And my dad as well. So that's the whole issue, right? The cycle of abuse. Well, we broke it. The siblings in my family all broke it. The ones that actually lived. There's quite a few that are gone now, but we did break it for sure because I broke the cycle, but I don't have any children. But I know if I did, I would have broke the cycle. My sister broke the cycle. My brother, the one that is still living, actually broke the cycle too, as he learned to love his child. So this is the whole issue, right? We have to break that cycle, and we cannot continue to live these abusive, horrible lives. I just don't see why we should have to suffer our whole entire life. I watched my mom do that, see, and I knew she was abused as a child, and because she had told me, and my aunts had told me as well, on her side, my mom's sisters, and so that's why my mom did what she did. But the whole thing is she suffered along in a marriage too, an abusive marriage as well, which she could have got out of. And then she died a miserable, suffering woman who was abused as a child. She spent her whole life in hell, and made our life hell too, right? So this is the whole issue. We don't want to do that, and you don't want to do that to yourself as an adult. We deserve to have a normal, decent life. And so that's what I'd just like to encourage people to hold out for that, and keep looking for that hope where you can find it. Look for that healing. Look for that hope. Keep your hope. Keep that hope alive, right? Because it's so important. Because we deserve to have a good life too, right? Everybody does. So I have about a minute left. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and tonight at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Elizabeth Roberts-Brawley will be in Dreamcatchers Talk Radio here on Blog Talk Radio, and I'll be in the chat room, and she's got some great information for us. I hope you will tune in and listen to that, www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. Then tomorrow night I'll be on talking with Donna Shear about my book, A Life of Death, The Redemption. That is my memoirs. It's my personal story, and we're going to be on talking for an hour. She's going to do a bit of a little interview, and that's tomorrow night, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio here on Blog Talk Radio. And anybody can call in if they have any questions or comments that they'd like to make, or if you're just curious and wanted to ask me some questions about the book, that's fine. I'm happy to talk about the book. It's my life story, and I talk a lot about the abuse that I suffered as well as my family and what we went through, and it was just absolutely horrible. But the book is very hopeful because, as you can see, I'm still here. I did not kill myself, and I stopped using drugs at the age of 21. I really have worked extremely hard to have a good life, you know what I mean? And I consider myself very lucky to be here because anything could have taken me out at any point. So, I could have followed suit with my friends or with my family, my brothers and stuff. So that's the whole issue. I'm extremely blessed to be here. And so that's why I don't mind sharing my story, and I want people to know that there is hope and that we can do it, you know what I mean? So if you need something, get a hold of me here at Blog Talk Radio. You can send me a message, or you can get a hold of me on Facebook. I'm on and off throughout the day, checking messages and whatnot. And have yourselves a great day, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I'll be back on tomorrow morning as well. One child to be a survivor to another, 6 o'clock a.m. in the morning again. So take care, everybody. You're in my heart, and I'll just keep you in my prayers. And have a great day. Bye-bye.